Hey, welcome aboard. I'm making this video to try and talk about difficult things, particularly in relationship to coming in for counselling with myself or with anyone for that matter. So, did bad things happen in your childhood? Did bad things happen in my childhood? Did bad things happen in anybody's childhood? If bad things did happen, then as an adult, what can I or anybody else do about it? How does one get better? How does one put the pieces of one's life back together after having been given a hard deal, and it could be a very, very difficult deal in one's childhood? That's pretty much the question that everyone wants to know the answer to, and that's why you're probably watching this video. So imagine if trauma happens, or a particular type of abuse occurs for somebody at 3 months. What are the results? What are the lasting results that occur for the recipient of the abuse or the trauma? So if somebody's 15 when abuse or trauma occurs, what are the results moving into that person's life? How would a person be limited right now? And this is where things start to get very, very almost intricate, if I could use the word intricate, where there's a whole, depending on the timing of the trauma, it could actually be that there was no abuse, was no trauma, but one's parents had actually been themselves abused. So even though the current parents may have done their best to not on abuse and not pass on the abuse, the unprocessed trauma was hanging around, and children are like sponges, and children absorb, and this can have an impact in a person's current adult life. Are there aspects of oneself that that one has had to suppress? Do I want to do bad things? Do you want to do bad things? Have you done bad things to people in the past? Whatever. Have people done bad things to you? How has your life been limited? How is your life currently limited by what occurred in the past? And this is where counselling can really help in this regard, creating a safe environment for these things to actually bubble up. And the idea is that I've actually done the work on myself, and I'm aware of what's actually banging around in people's unconscious. And that's the thing about the unconscious, is that it is unconscious, and it just won't be. A person won't actually sit there and remember, oh, this happened or that happened, but there will be these behavioural indicators that something went on, and there will be certain fears that come through in a person's life, certain limitations which are happening right now from what happened back then. And this is where we can take a second look and see how these things can be undone in a sense. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to, if a person in their childhood has been abused, I think there's enough awareness for people to not want to repeat that abuse on their own children, and that's a laudable goal. That is I believe everybody should aim for this goal. But how do you get there? When, if for example somebody's 2, something bad happened, when their own child, so that person, now an adult, when their own child is 2 years old, in a sense, dealing with a 2-year-old, if I'm dealing with a 2-year-old in front of me right now, then I'll actually be taken back to who I was when I was 2. I will be confronted with an external representation of my 2-year-old self, just as an example. So, if my contact with a current age 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 3-month-old, anyone at a developmental stage younger than what I am now, I'll be taken back to who I was when I was 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, anything. I'm going to be taken back. And that's why there's books that talk about the infant inside the adult. Inside of me is who I was when I was 3 months. Inside of me, who I was when I was 2, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12. That's all sitting there. What happened to me during those ages? What happened to you at those ages? How is that affecting you right now? And that's what that's why we're talking about the difficult things. Sometimes it's difficult to talk about these things, or I think the biggest fear for many people is the fear of being misunderstood. So people will come in for therapy or counselling or whatever, and they'll say, look, I think something went wrong, and I think it's affecting me right now, in real world, and I have limitations. I'm not behaving the way I want to behave, and it's not about blame, because more often than not, the more a person digs, it's what resources did the parents have at the time, what burdens of trauma and prior abuse were the parents operating under when they were giving out the parenting or doing the wrong thing. It's a very, very complex issue, and it's an issue that needs to be addressed with a great deal of sensitivity and a sense of honesty. So yeah, I'm just opening up the discussion and see where we can take this.